These lawless and chaotic order attempts to steal allocated dollars that have been included in state budgets. These funds ensure that the residents of Arizona and all other states have access to quality health care, law enforcement protection, safe roads, and assistance in the aftermath of natural disasters. Without these dollars, states like Arizona will be unable to pay public safety employees, cops on the street, satisfy contractual obligations, and carry on the important business of government. That is why moments ago, Arizona and 22 other states sued the Trump administration in the southern, Rhode Island, I believe, the District of Rhode Island, and we are also seeking a temporary restraining order to immediately block this blatantly unconstitutional action from taking effect. Donald Trump may have won the election, but winning by one of the slimmest election margins in history does not grant him dictatorial powers. No presidential election grants any president that authority. Billions of dollars flow to the state, health systems, infrastructure, law enforcement, education, and everything in between. Many states like Arizona will be faced with the possibility of immediate cash shortfalls. This will impact our ability to protect our residents and conduct basic everyday programs like funding for health care and food for children. If this order is allowed to stand, rural health care and hospital systems will collapse, and children will go without school meals, the only meals that some children get on a daily basis. Donald Trump is attempting to illegally implement his radical Project 2025 agenda with catastrophic results. We will not allow him to do so. This action will irreparably and immediately harm the very people who placed their trust in Trump when they cast their ballot for him in November. Nothing about this outrageous action, nothing about it will lower costs or help those struggling in our state and across the country. We are still a nation of laws, and this action very clearly violates the Administrative Procedures Act and the United States Constitution. Donald Trump, and indeed no president, has the authority to impose a government-wide pause on federal spending, disregarding the statutes authorized by Congress for each individual funding stream. And this has a direct threat to our safety in the following ways. The high, and maybe we can get the slide over here, guys. The high intensity drug trafficking area, HIDTA program, which my office partners with alongside federal, local, and tribal law enforcement, plays a critical role in combating the fentanyl crisis faced by our state. Just last night, in fact, agents collaborating through HIDTA seized 500 pounds of methamphetamine. Without the flow of federal funding, those 500 pounds of meth would have ended up on Arizona's streets. We seized over 420 pounds of fentanyl with our HIDTA partners last year alone. 420 pounds. We have 27 HIDTA initiatives. So maybe we can go to the next slide. We have 27 HIDTA initiatives in the state of Arizona, which are drug task forces stationed in Arizona doing direct battle with the Mexican drug cartels. Trump just defunded our HIDTA initiatives, which are our front line against these dangerous drug traffickers. Without this funding, Arizonans will be in danger. And I think we have to note the fact that Donald Trump wants to declare these drug cartels terrorists in one breath, and in the next breath, he is defunding our efforts to bring those drug cartels down. That is outrageous. These HIDTA initiatives include funding for 704, you heard that, 704 full-time law enforcement officers and 33 part-time law enforcement officers working to protect southern Arizona and families across our state. We spoke to one top law enforcement official in Arizona who said, quote, "This devastates law enforcement." I spoke to one of the most conservative sheriffs in Arizona this morning, and he said, and I quote, "This is bullshit." I don't think I need to repeat that. HIDTA is not the only public safety program Trump is trying to defund. We have more than 200 open projects under the Arizona Department of Public Safety right now that could be impacted, weakening law enforcement, fire service, emergency management, and public safety in just about every sector of the state of Arizona. Beyond public safety, this will have other devastating impacts to the state of Arizona. More than 460,000 Arizona households rely on SNAP, benefits to afford dinner on their table every single night. And nearly 1 million Arizona children rely on federally provided school lunch and breakfast, so they don't go hungry. For many, that is the only meal they're going to get. Head Start, child care and preschool for low-income children, serves more than 15,000 children in Arizona and more than 13,000 families. As of this morning, DES was locked out of the system. Let me repeat that. DES was locked out of the federal portal, the federal system, providing those benefits. Tommy Sheridan, the deputy director of the National Head Start Association, said he was told by several programs that they will have to shut their doors if the funding isn't made available in the coming days. That's 13,000 Arizona parents who might have to stay home from work in the coming days due to the loss of child care. Tens of thousands of Arizona households rely on Section 8 housing support to afford their rent every month. Well, the first of the month is in 4 days, right upon us. And more than 7,000 renters in Phoenix alone might not be able to afford to make the rent. That will have a ripple effect, obviously, throughout our economy. The nearly 630,000 Arizona families who qualify for federal assistance with their utility bills under LIHEAP will literally be left out in the cold and lose their air conditioning in the summertime months. 17 critical access hospitals and 55 rural health clinics in Arizona will shutter without the federal funding that they rely on. Emergency medical responders and critical care paramedic programs at 7 rural EMS agencies in Arizona will be impacted. Without these services, rural Arizonans are going to die. and more than 2 million Arizonans, 2 million Arizonans will lose their health coverage through Medicaid pursuant to this action by Donald Trump. This includes those who have surgery scheduled this week, women who could give birth at any moment, and people whose lives depend on their access to health care. As of now, it appears that Medicaid portals may be opening back up, but this is the chaos that Trump's administration is creating. 10,000 Arizonans with HIV rely on the Ryan White program for treatment that will be paused for more than 50% of Arizonans living with HIV. And again, confirmed this afternoon, DES is unable to draw down federally appropriated and awarded funding from the payment management system, which contains all funding from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the U.S. Department of Labor. Approximately $200 million is inaccessible currently. Arizona veterans are also impacted. 240 Arizona veterans rely on health care from our state's skilled nursing homes and facilities whose funding is impacted. The GI Bill is on the chopping block. Tens of thousands of veterans will lose access to higher education. This is the opposite of what Trump ran on. I am absolutely appalled as the top legal officer of the state of Arizona and the top law enforcement officer of the state of Arizona at this action. I'm also grateful to Governor Hobbs and the state agencies for working with us literally throughout the night to quickly bring this lawsuit and get the information that we needed for it. But I want to ask this question in conclusion. Where is David Schweikert? Where is Abe Hamadeh? Where is Warren Peterson? Where is Steve Montenegro? Where is Andy Biggs? Where is Paul Gosar? Where is Eli Crane? And where is Juan Ciscomani? Where are the Republicans, and why aren't they standing up for law enforcement and against this illegal money grab? They sure as hell aren't standing up for law enforcement or the people of Arizona. MAGA policy is on the verge of becoming reality, and it will devastate this state. And I will not allow that to happen. And with that, I'd be glad to take any questions that you have.
Attorney, how much money in general on this funding we're probably losing? You have a number?
You know, that is a great question, and it's hard to calculate the total number. I think it could end up in the billions of dollars. It is certainly in the hundreds of millions of dollars when you factor all of it in. And of course, the human impact is incalculable. How do you put a price on a human being who dies because we no longer have funding for our law enforcement efforts at the border, and so much more fentanyl is going to come into the state of Arizona? How do you put a price on the fact that many kids in Arizona will have to go without daycare because of the cuts to DCS funding? How do you put a price on the inability of a pregnant woman to go to the hospital because Medicaid isn't going to be able to pay her bills? The price is so unbelievably high. Wayne.
Speaking of that, there's a lot of uncertainty over which exactly programs are affected by this. Do you know for certain that these programs are affected, or is this just possibilities right now?
Look, this is what we believe in reading the order. It's an extremely broad executive order, and it looks like the Trump administration, after seeing the threat of our lawsuit, may be starting to try to walk back some of what they said about Medicaid, We don't know yet. I mean, it's our understanding that the portal is still closed for Arizona. Not totally sure about that. So, you know, but you just got to read the OMB memo, or the memo that was put out, and you can see that it would impact pretty much all federal funding almost all federal funding coming into the state of Arizona, affecting people across the political gamut, across the landscape, including veterans and kids and families. Yes.
As of now, what agencies, just to follow up on that point, have reached out to your office and said, our funds are frozen right now, we don't have access?
Yeah, also a great question, and what I'll say is we do have affidavits from multiple state agencies, and we can give these to you. These will be part of the lawsuit that is literally being filed as we speak here right now. But we've got, I'm going to read them off to you. We've been in touch with the governor's office, obviously. Thank you, Josh. Department of Vets Services, the Department of Health, Department of Economic Security, and Access all have been in touch with us and have been impacted, are being impacted. This is Josh Bender, my Solicitor General. Josh, do you want to come up
Sorry
and
for the opaque.
speak?
Those are all offices that have signed declarations
And that's what I have in my hand.
as of this morning saying that they were unable to access the portals.
Right. Stacy.
Can you speak more to the specifics of the legal claims that you are making? What about this action, well, the memo, because it hasn't even gone into effect yet, right, until 3 o'clock our time? But
Well, no, actually, no. It went into effect this morning,
Okay.
believe it or not. No, that's what the memo said, but our agency started to have trouble accessing the portals this morning. So it actually went into effect before they even sent it, well, they sent it out last night, but it went into effect before they said it was going to go into effect. But-
so can you speak more to the, it sounded like the Administrative Procedures Act you said
Yeah.
was being violated, like what is that? And then also what is the constitutional violation?
Right. So the constitutional violation is that Congress has already, so there's a separation of powers argument here. Congress has already appropriated these monies, and the president does not have the unilateral authority, really dictatorial authority, to countermand and override what Congress has already authorized through law. And so these are funds that were authorized by Congress, and that Donald Trump just decided to shut off. He sort of turned the spigot off on his own. That is not the way it works in our country. So that is blatantly, flatly unconstitutional. It's contrary to law. Oh, that's our ultra vires claim. It is we're also saying it's arbitrary and capricious. This was done without any explanation, without any reasoning, essentially, without any legal predicate or argument, and then I would say yes, under the Administrative Procedures Act, that requires the government to go through certain procedures and rulemakings, et cetera, before they make these kinds of sweeping decisions. Josh, would you add anything to that? Okay. I passed my test.
The press just reported that a federal judge is blocking the loan ban. Does that change anything for your lawsuit here?
So there was, that may be coming from the one other, there was another case filed by some nonprofits. I know that judge was meeting at 4 p.m. I haven't had a chance to read it. I don't know if it covers everything that we cover in our lawsuit, but we're certainly going to take a look at it. It was related, and it was done on behalf of nonprofits. The state AGs are acting on behalf of states and all of the funding coming to our states.
Talking about the constitutionality of all of this, to my knowledge, the administration hasn't said that this money is going to disappear. Their argument has been that this is a
No, I don't think it does. I mean, obviously, a pause in practice is a ceasing, or as I say, a stealing of the money, right? The money was flowing. We had a portal that we were accessing under the law. I mean, let me put it this way. Any amount of time, any pause that Donald Trump puts on our ability to fight the fentanyl crisis and to go after the Mexican drug cartels is unacceptable and does harm, real, tangible harm to the state of Arizona. Any pause in LIHEAP money, any pause in Medicaid funding in which people could die because they decide not to go to the hospital during this pause period, is harm to the states. And then, of course, who knows what happens after his pause period, when he probably attempts to make this a permanent cessation of these funds. You know, and I think you have to ask your question, why is this happening? It's not lost on me. I don't know about you guys, but it's not lost on me that this comes right before Donald Trump is about to, and Republicans in Congress are about to pass one of the most extreme tax cuts for billionaires in this country. So my guess is they're trying to cut funding to the states and to folks who are low income or middle income and struggling, so they can pay for a tax cut for the rich. I mean, this is Doge. This is the precursor to Doge, right? This is how they pay for Doge, or how they pay for the tax credits or tax cuts. So, yeah, there's real harm, not just in this pause period, which is illegal, but also whatever comes after that.
To follow up with the DES component, you said $200 million inaccessible right now. Does that include the SNAP benefits, the food stamps that go through their office, and are you aware of anyone in the state that has lost food stamps today, didn't receive any funding?
That's a great question. That's something we're going to be in the process of gathering information from DES about. It's just happened so recently, so quickly, but presumably that kind of thing will happen. Going back to the law enforcement question, I will tell you, I know that our law enforcement partners are scrambling on this, trying to figure out whether they're going to be able to continue to fund the task forces. I mean, this is literally how we fund police officers and sheriffs and efforts to bring down the Mexican drug cartels with this money. This is how we do it. And Donald Trump just cut that. It's nonsense. It's nonsensical. He claims to want to go after the Mexican drug cartels, but then he defunds the police in Arizona. It's crazy.
I got a question real quick. So it says DC federal judge temporary blocks Trump plan to pause federal aids. Can you really ask that question?
Yeah, I think that was over here. Yeah, and we've got to take a look at that. I don't know how broad, Josh, do you know how broad that decision was? But it's very temporary, and we'll be looking at that. But certainly it's in the same vein of what we're trying to do here. Yeah. Yeah. No, fair question. It's a fair question. It's a very fluid situation, but same question here.
Who is the conservative sheriff who says this is bullshit?
I'm going to keep that one to myself.
No,
Sorry.
well,
No, I know, but I know. Like I've spoken to multiple conservative sheriffs today. They are in a state of shock. I will share that with you now. They are in a state of shock over this, and can't believe it. And they're going to be talking, I think, at the both state association, sheriff's association level, and the national association level, to try to better understand how this is going to impact them.
So this is somewhat unrelated. The Isaac School District is currently under a Senate investigation. There's also some stuff happening at the executive level right now. Is there anything in your office that you guys are working toward right now when it comes to that?
Yeah, so our top priority right now is trying to make sure that the Isaac School District becomes solvent and that we can make sure kids can go to school in the Isaac School District. Obviously, we know we understand there's requests for us to investigate what happened. We will investigate what happened at the Isaac School District, and we will obviously brief you after that investigation is concluded. You bet.
Has there been any confirmed reports of issues with payments for Medicaid? I know you said the Medicaid portal might be back up, but
Too early to say, but I mean, one would have to presume that if the Medicaid portal was down for a full day, or if the Head Start portals were down for a full day, or any of these portals, that there would have been trouble getting money. I know state agencies were trying; they were pinging those portals, and so, I think for at least a day, on that incredibly important portal, the money went down. And again, I think it's so important to remember that this causes true chaos amongst nonprofits that receive federal funding. It causes chaos, amongst law enforcement who don't know whether they're going to be getting this funding in the next days or weeks, and it causes law enforcement to have to take their eye off of the ball when we're trying to fight the drug cartels. So none of this is helpful. Causing chaos just to cause chaos, if that's all it is not good. But I suspect it's much, much more than that. Yeah.
Silly as it sounds, but do we know the reason why President Trump is doing all this?
I think you'd have to ask President Trump because, again, it's hard to know. It's really hard to know if it's just that they're incompetent or that they're lying. They claim to care about law enforcement, but then they defund law enforcement. And I guess to some degree, Trump telegraphed that he was going to do some of this. It's just kind of shocking when you see it happen, when you see it play out in real time. And it's shocking the way that they did it, which is obviously unconstitutional, and we're going to fight.
And that's the reason why the law enforcement are reacting this way too as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think law enforcement just wants to do their jobs. Law enforcement wants to be able to seize fentanyl, seize meth, go after the drug cartels, deal with the border situation. Our nonprofits, our communities, our schools just want to be able to provide an education. Our schools that provide school lunches to low-income students want to be able to continue to provide lunches. My office alone has 15 grants from the federal government. We have a crime victims assistance grant that would essentially apparently be defunded by this. Crime victims assistance. So I guess Donald Trump is opposed to crime victims assistance also? In addition to the HIDA grants that I was talking about? Is that it? Donald? Is that what you're saying? You're opposed to crime victims assistance? Again, I could go down the list, but it is stunning, staggering, unconstitutional, and we will fight it tooth and nail.
I just have one more question. What's your interpretation of the clarification the White House offered, saying any program that provides direct benefits to individuals is not subject to this pause? What does that mean for you in terms of the agencies that would be affected?
Will you say that one more time?
The clarification the White House offered with all this confusion is that any program that offers direct benefits to American citizens won't be impacted.
Yeah. Again, I'm not sure what to believe from them. They claim that, but yet the portals remain in many states remain closed today. They were very slow to open up those Medicaid portals for individual benefits. Many of these services and benefits flow through other agencies. I'm worried about, frankly, our universities that get a ton of federal grants. I'm worried about student loan programs that flow through universities. What about that? So there's so much that we don't know based on this executive or this memo. But from what we can tell, it will have a devastating impact on the state of Arizona.
As a point of clarification, all grants mentioned today go to the state, they're not to the individual.
Yeah.
So they would not be impacted by that legislation.
Thank you, Delaney. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have any knowledge if these problems with the portals are just in blue states or generally?
I think it's across the country. I mean, I haven't seen any distinction, really, red state to blue state. So I think this is going to hurt every state, whether it voted for Donald Trump or not. And certainly, as you know, our state is evenly divided between independents, Republicans, and Democrats. It's going to hurt everybody if this is really where they end up.
I wonder if I can ask you a question, and forgive me, it's not very well put, probably, but so your lawsuit is taking issue with the way that the Trump administration has done this. There are a lot of people in Arizona who voted for President Trump who think the government should have less of a role funding certain programs. I wonder what you would say to those individuals who would like to see a smaller federal government.
Well, I guess I would say that there is legally a process that has to be followed in order to defund programs. So, under the incredibly improbable scenario in which somebody thought that we should be spending less money to go after the Mexican drug cartels, then they would need to get Congress to agree to that. If somebody thinks that we should spend less money on Medicaid and on helping kids not be hungry at schools, then they have to go through Congress first and get that law passed. It can't be done by a man who has decided that he wants to be a dictator on apparently days 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and 9, if we're on the 9th day. And I got some of my special agents standing outside. Jim Cope is the head of my police force here at the AG's office. One of the things, and some of our guys working on Medicaid fraud, efforts to root out Medicaid fraud and to address the sober living home crisis, we don't know whether or not this action would defund what's called Mafuku. Did I pronounce that right, Danny? Mafuku, which is the Medicaid fraud unit agencies, and they delegate those responsibilities to some states like Arizona. We have a very, very robust, successful Medicaid fraud investigative unit here at the AG's office, and as you know, we prosecute a lot of Medicaid fraud and medical fraud. And apparently, this would defund, it looks like, potentially, it could defund Medicare fraud prosecutions and investigations. And let me tell you, that is the last thing we need in the state of Arizona when we are rooting out so much fraud in the access system right now. So.